Hi, everybody. Welcome to the launch event of the Southeast Asia Coalition on Tech Accountability. Here I will refer to it as the SEACT Coalition. We are so excited that you're here with us today, and thank you so much for making time for it. My name is Floy, and I'm the founder of Storage. I will be moderating the event today. As you have already know, that the coalition is currently comprised of 11 organizations. So I'm here with the member organization today, whose representative will share with us the insight about the impact of social media platform in their country of focus. And after this session, I will talk about challenges to hold tech company accountable in Southeast Asia and introduce all of you to the coalition. And we will end with Q&A. If you have a question, please put it in the question box. This is because there might be a lot of conversation in the chat box and your question can be missed. Also, if you would like your question to be answered by a specific speaker, please state it as well. So thank you very much. So I think that we can start now with the first session about the problem of tech company on human rights and democracy. And as you know, the many countries in Southeast Asia have experience with social media platforms overlooking problematic content on the platforms, and these online content then have become harmful to human rights and democracy. So I would like to start with the Philippines. Due to the fact that it's going to have an election soon, and has been documented that social media play a really important role in the last election in 2016. So I would like to welcome Jasmine Passes from Foundation for Media Alternative to share with us about it. The floor is yours, Jas.
Thank you, Floy, and hello everyone. It's nice to see everyone here. Good afternoon from the Philippines. My name is Jess from the Foundation for Media Alternatives. We are a non-government organization in the Philippines working on digital rights. And for this brief input today, I will be focusing on the role of social media on disinformation and elections in the Philippines. And particular attention will be directed at Facebook because, well, first, as we all know, Filipinos are some of the biggest users of Facebook, and the latest numbers actually show that 99% of internet users in the Philippines are also Facebook users. And second, several reports over the previous years have proven the massive role that Facebook has played and is continually playing in the spread of disinformation in the country. So when the Cambridge Analytica breach was discovered in 2018, the Philippines was one of the countries that was affected. According to official numbers from Facebook, over 1 million Philippine residents had their personal information improperly shared with Cambridge Analytica. And then following that that whole expose, journalists have also uncovered documents from as early as 2013 showing how Cambridge Analytica and their group of companies may have possibly been involved in the 2016 campaign of our current president, Rodrigo Duterte. And in fact, the former public policy director for global elections of Facebook, in a speech in 2018, referred to the Philippines as quote-unquote patient zero when it comes to the weaponization of digital platforms during elections. And in recent years, the Philippines has had to battle its way through many forms of information disorder on Facebook. The platform has ordered the takedown of several networks of Facebook pages, Facebook groups, for coordinated inauthentic behavior, and some of these networks that were taken down were actually linked with several figures and names that are in Philippine government. And so now that the 2022 elections are nearing, because the Philippines will actually hold its next national elections in May 2022, Facebook remains a breeding ground for disinformation. And in fact, a recent local study has shown that those who rely on Facebook for news more than the mainstream media, and in particular those young people who are supporters of Rodrigo Duterte, are more likely to believe in fake news. The study also shows that trust in social media and Facebook, quote unquote, impairs one's ability to detect misinformation. And this problem, of course, becomes even more prominent when we consider that because of the high cost and poor quality of internet access in the country, a huge chunk of the Filipino population actually still rely on free Facebook for information, for any kind of information. So much so that for many Filipino people, they don't know how to use internet browsers or search engines, and for them, Facebook is the internet. But back to the issue of elections. So our Commission on Elections recently issued a set of rules on political ads. So this includes guidelines on social media campaigns and ad transparency. And the commission has also required internet and social media companies that operate in the country to report the particulars of paid political ads placed on them. However, while this set of rules is promising, how they will be implemented once the campaign season officially starts remains to be seen. And given the massive role that Facebook obviously plays in the continuous spread of disinformation in the Philippines, local civil society has come up with several demands, and we don't have the luxury of time, so let me just go through some of them here. So we're calling for transparency on election-related policies, identification and flagging of imposter pages or groups, monitoring violations from authentic accounts, mandatory labeling for political personalities, boosting authoritative news, and of course, maintaining open communication channels with civil society. So these are just some of the calls from local civil society, and I'm sure that Ploy and the others with us today would echo them as well. But basically, this is what has been happening in the Philippines, and we are very excited to see how this coalition, the SEACT, will help advance these demands as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Following the case of the Philippines, there are also similar situations that happened in Myanmar. Yindana from Free Expression Myanmar will be sharing with us about the problems that social media platform overlooking problematic content in the country. I think that some of you may already have heard about it, but then I'll just ask her to address this point again. Mai Yin, thank you so much for being with us. How is it like in Myanmar?
Yeah, thank you, Ploy. And firstly, I would like to welcome this coalition, and well done. And also thank you for all your great effort for this coalition and all the chatter and things so far that you have already, working hard for this. So the objective, of this coalition is to hold the tech companies accountable to their human rights obligations, including the UN general principle and fundamental human rights like the right to freedom of expression that we work on. Civil society must organize in order to hold a very powerful tech company to those obligations. Many national coalitions trying in each country, including Myanmar, but tech companies are generally international, and therefore international civil society coalitions are important. The regional coalition like this, it's an additional middle layer of a civil society stakeholder to engage with tech companies at a regional level. So for example, there are regional offices in Singapore or Hong Kong. And our aim will be to facilitate national message into the regional international spaces. So thank you for the correlation and welcome again. Then I would like to express a little bit about the situation in Myanmar here. In Myanmar, tech companies have a history of like failing to live up with the, their human rights obligations. So previously, the attacks on like Rohingya were like enabled due to like hateful propaganda online that proliferated, driven by people and institution, intent on creating such conflict for their own benefits or for their own belief. By failing to deal with this kind of like organized and also like hateful propaganda against the Rohingya people, the tech company then, let this kind of like content and dangerous content become normalized in Myanmar's online as digital space, Myanmar space. When tech companies did finally deal with this kind of propaganda, they use like a sledgehammer instead of a surgeon's knife, I would say. So in banning discriminatory words, they also ban the similar and related words. They are banned caught up those trying to counter discriminations within the ethnicity and within the ethnic people group in Myanmar. And they also ban media outlets covering propagandas and also violence for new purposes, which is similar during the coup too. The result was over deletion and round deletion that violated the right to freedom of expression. Throughout, the tech companies never come up with the intelligent ways to counter problematic expression. Their solution was always like always maximum deletions. This is not like to say the staff of the tech companies are not empathetic, but because like many are working with us to try to solve these issues as best as they can. So underlying this all is like this all is like a simple issue that this kind of business are often set up in a way that promotes profits, but responsibility behavior that protects our human rights. So like through the coalition, I also hope that we can solve these issues together. At least like we can hold this tech company together, accountable together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayin. We actually have this kind of case in Thailand as well. So the pro-military propaganda also happens in Thailand. And I would like to invite Yingxi Pachanon or Pipao from Internet Law Reform Dialogue or iLaw to share with us about this as a case study from Thailand. Sorry. Pipao, I know that you have a direct experience on this situation. Can I please ask you to share with us about it?
Yes, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ying Chi. Thailand is now actually, I would like to say we are still under a military government, but they prolonged their own power since the coup in 2014. Even though we had an election, but we are still under their own rules. We can find some official documents that prove that the military had its own information operation to produce, of course, propaganda to support the military and also this current government. But on the other hand, the evidence also show that the military conduct an operation to attack the opposition political parties and also political activists who work or campaign or conduct many activities against its own regime. This information operation is conducting under the government's budget, which come from people's tax. And we receive as a person, as one of the people who campaign against this regime, we can noticed that when we talk about some specific issue, for example, less majesty law or monarchy reform, there will be hundreds of Facebook users or Twitter users who came together at the same time and provide some comments. Some of them just came to comment on our post, but they talk about something else. They just try to avoid going into the issue, but let's take the issue out of their own concern. And some of them just attack directly to the issue. Some of them attack directly to myself or to the organizations. Some of them provide like rude and aggressive words against us. But they are not coming all the time and all of our posts, but they will come together just sometimes when we talk about something or when our campaign can get a lot of public interest. Sorry. โทรหาพี่ฐานหน่อยบอกพี่ฐานจะโทรหาพี่ Sorry. Am I still here? Okay. We have found some official documents that can prove that the military does really conduct this kind of operation. And this year, I myself and some of our colleagues filed a case to the administrative court, asking the court to order the military to stop this operation. But we still, this case is still very difficult because the military denied all accusations and they deny all documents that are fake. So we need more support from the tech company to provide like technical evidence to prove that this is really happening. Actually, last year, Twitter launched a report saying that they already shut down at least 900 accounts that they have a reliable technical evidence that these are from military information operation. And this year, Facebook also launched a report that they shut down like 48 accounts that they can find that this is from a military information operation. But this is very little in terms of number because we believe that there are more and this operation is still going on. I have a second issue that just occurred last week. Last week, maybe 20 or 30 of our political activists received a warning from Apple saying that we are under attack by a state-sponsored attacker, which we believe that it likely to be a Pegasus that from Israel, that they can come to our iPhone and they can have all of our information. This is what we are still looking for more evidence, but we appreciate that Apple at least warned their own client. But for people who are using other phones like Huawei from China, Samsung or whatever, maybe they cannot get this kind of warning and we don't know that are they under attack or not. So this is what we expect from the tech company to at least tell their own customers that what is happening, and so we can take another step to fight back with this. Okay.
Thank you, Vipao. I agree that there must be more number of people, those who don't use Apple iPhone, that got attacked. Hopefully we'll find out in the next coming week. Thank you very much for this. Next, I'm curious to hear what it's like in Malaysia, and the executive director of CIJ Malaysia, Wachla Naidu, is here with us. All of this is about social media overlooking problematic content. Do you have the same issues in Malaysia, Wachla?
Thank you, Ploy, and thank you, everyone. I think if it's just 10 seconds, I would say yes, it resonates across board. It's really similar with what happens here in Malaysia. We are also in a kind of a very interesting conundrum. It's not just COVID that we're experiencing, but for Malaysia, we're also going through continuing political turmoil. We had a lot of opening of spaces in 2018, but with the change of government last year through rather controversial means in March, and another change in government this year, we've seen how social media platforms have increasingly been used as a tool that would amplify certain voices or propaganda. Past experiences, even as far back as the previous general election in 2018, we've already seen a trend or a pattern where social media has been used to sort of propagate a particular narrative. And in the context of Malaysia, it's often a narrative around the 3R, which is the race, religion, and royalty narrative, right? And we've also seen increasingly a pattern where it's very, very coordinated. It's large scale, and the way it amplifies the messaging is at a speed that we can't control. And that's like one element, right, where they're pushing a particular kind of narrative. We're also seeing more and more, or rather increasingly, a pattern where, again, social media is seen as a tool that is perhaps used to divert attention, right? And the way this happens is when particular communities are targeted online. Just at the start of COVID, for example, where there were a lot of questions against the government action around mitigation and so on, we saw a change in narrative that was targeting, say, particularly vulnerable communities or communities at risk, such as migrant workers communities, refugees, stateless persons. So the narrative and rhetoric gets amplified through social media platform. We also see LGBT communities being targeted online. And these, I call these targeting because it's also very, very coordinated action. And it's often a reaction or a pushback when something is going on at the national level. And I would also say that looking at some of these patterns, we could see this as part of a political maneuvering. Yeah. So the challenges are not just how state actually uses the social media platforms to turn it into a weapon or a tool to amplify their messaging or attack and divert attention, right? But it also, again, comes from the way the tech companies also operate. And again, as I said, this really resonates. Simple things like how, the inconsistencies in the way they apply the community standards, or inconsistent way or approach to content moderation. So by the time, say, for example, there is an, content that is targeting migrant workers, right? Or individual activists who are working on the issue. By the time, some of these posts are perhaps taken down, it's a bit too late because it's amplified thousands of times. And in instances where it involves doxing, trolling, the damage is often done. So consistent discussion, I mean, we've attempted to have discussion, but say, for example, with Facebook, but the delay is always there, right? And although it eventually gets taken down, the impact on the persons who are targeted or the communities targeted had multiplied. Another huge challenge we always find with social media platform is the way it targets particular groups of people where, either, we are looking at Facebook and how it's being attempted or how it's used as a tool to propagate certain narrative targeting particular communities, right? As what was shared by one of our earlier speakers, well, how the reach of Facebook is beyond what we normally expect compared to Twitter. Twitter may be somewhat still limited, but Facebook, it cuts across a lot of digital geographical divides, I would say. And it's also very difficult for us to counter the impact of how the messaging is put across, because advocacies around this are also limited. So I think for us, what we are looking at in terms of a regional coalition or a network would be looking at some common level of monitoring and response, but also in how do we use these monitoring as our data or evidence to really hold the tech companies and the social media platforms really to account. And I think a consolidated and a solidarity kind of approach to this will really help us kind of get some leverage in addressing these concerns. Yeah, thank you. Just got a
Thank you,
reminder my
Wasla.
time was up, so I had to stop.
Thank you, Wasla. How about a country that has a lot of social media users like Indonesia? I have invited Miftah from ELSAM to share with us about the situation too. How is it like with social media overlooking problematic content in Indonesia, Miftah?
Yeah, thank you, Ploy, and thank you for everyone for having been here. First of all, I'm happy to be able to participate in the coalitions, and I just want to quickly share how the failure in addressing harmful contents affect the human rights situations in Indonesia. And I see that there are two things to blame that contribute in escalating the human rights problems in Indonesia. The first one is the regulatory problems. Ministry of Information and Communications has blocked billions of internet content since 2014, which falls under more than 20 different categories of illegal contents. And I see that the lack of definitions and transparency have led to offer blocking actions that impact many communities, especially LGBTQIA communities, women and children, regarding the access to sexual and reproductive health information, and religious minority groups. And this is obviously not regulatory issues alone, but also maintained by the political ideology that really shapes the social media requirement over content distributions and the way the social media tackle the harmful contents. And it's quite challenging for social media company actually to challenge this policy landscape, since it will impact their permission to operate in Indonesia. And the second one is, I think, similar to what happened in Thailand, Malaysia, and in Myanmar, where state actors and military actors are the ones that are distributing false information and propaganda, which has disrupted public criticism and policy debates on the internet. And this makes our advocacy agenda pretty challenging as well. And this is true, especially in the case of job creation law and human rights crisis in Papua. In both cases, Indonesia government was deploying an online campaign by hiring a social media influencer to buzz a positive comments and use a common hashtag to shape a public opinion over the job creation law and military activities in Papua. And another example in 2019, for example, when many nationalist groups are triggered by fake news regarding the flag incidents in Papuan student dormitory, I see that the situation was successfully responded by the government by shutting down the internet in Papua, which obviously has created more problems, such as escalating violences in Papua, restraining civil society to set up an online protest to the government mishandling to human rights crisis in Papua, and more economic and social problems. At the same and at the same time, military also uses these information to cover up the human rights problems in Papua. And this use of social media influencers to deploy disinformation in backing up the story supporting government's action seems apparent in the past years and would be continued in the future. The reports from Indonesian Corruption Watch said that the government has spent billions of social media campaign, and this is really something that we are going to face in Indonesia in the upcoming presidential election in 2024. And I think Twitter has tried to ban all political related ads during the presidential election in 2019, which is pretty good, but we cannot really say that Twitter or any social media like Facebook have done much with the personal accounts, especially those associated with buzzers and influencers that help support the government propaganda. So civil society in Indonesia have been working together to challenge these situations, and the digital divide is a really big issue in Indonesia, not only in the internet infrastructure, but also in the understanding of it. So I think that it is important for Indonesia CSOs to create a common grounds and comprehension between the national and local advocacy movement, especially in relations to working together with the social media companies to do more public campaigns in the future. I think that's from my side, Ploy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mifta. So all of the case study that presented was about how social media overlooking problematic content like hate speech and disinformation, and how this has affected human rights and democracy. There's also a case that has been documented in Southeast Asia, which is social media platform following the government request. I would like to invite Michelle from Vietnam to share with us about that, since this case is well documented in Vietnam. Michelle, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ploy, and hello, everyone. As you know, Vietnam has a one-party state with no independent and free media. So Vietnamese people are using social media to share information and that are not covered by state media, such as corruption, police brutality, or South China Sea dispute, and so on. So the Facebook live stream function has been very useful for activists to report live conflicts between people and officials. And social media has continued to help people to connect and to discuss and to organize online and offline activities. So in response, the Vietnamese authorities have created a troll army called Force 47 with more than 10,000 members to control online expression. So this group of cyber troll praise state policies and harass netizens who criticize the state or party. They are making phones and mass reports on the violation on community standards in order to take down Facebook users to remove content. But those methods didn't prevent Vietnamese people to continue to use the internet to express their opinions or to criticize the government and officials. And that's why the Vietnamese regime has adopted in 2019 a cyber security law. Officially, this cyber security law is aimed to fight against terrorism, hate speech, and pornography, and so on. But in the reality, this cyber security law is only used to expressly request and directly ask to Facebook and Google and so on to remove sensitive content for the government and to censor Vietnamese users. And we have some proof that Facebook and Google have complied to all these requests because we can see some contents can be viewed by users outside Vietnam, but Vietnamese user inside Vietnam cannot view this video or post, a Facebook post. So the Vietnamese regime is so happy with the new cyber security law that the Vietnamese Minister of Information has declared some months ago that Facebook has complied with up to 95% of the government requests. That's enormous. It's a huge percentage. And as Vietnam is a very huge market for Facebook with its 60 million users, Facebook has decided to cooperate with the Vietnamese government. We have some papers from the some people inside Facebook showing that Mark Zuckerberg has complying to cooperate and collaborate with the Vietnamese government to just in order to continue to operate in Vietnam. And at the same time, we know that Facebook is aware that there are a great number of fake accounts in Vietnam created and run by state agents. And because Facebook is making money by advertising, the high number of users in Vietnam, the more lucrative advertisement is. So that's why they are closing the eyes on the fake accounts in Vietnam. And we know that Facebook claims they are committed to respect human rights in their business operations and to product development and so on. But in the reality, in Vietnam, Facebook continues to collaborate with an authoritarian regime to limit online expression and to help the censorship of the regime against its people. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Michelle. Actually, I think this situation, if we put Singapore as part of this kind of case study, we can see that it's not just Vietnam as well. Yeah. So, but it's too bad that our member from Singapore is not able to speak today. So I'm just going to mention about this a bit. In 2019, the Singaporean government decided to adopt the Protection from Falsehood and Manipulation Act, or POFMA, and they have used the law to tell social media platform on what to do. However, the order usually label posts considered to be false. But the order usually to label posts is considered to be false, but the order usually target posts by critic and posts that involve the government reputation. And as it has been reported already, Facebook followed those requests. And so just for the participant, if you like to know more about POFMA, our member, Singapore Internet Watch, has documented how POFMA has been used. And you can view the data set at the link. The technical team, please just post the link there. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, last but not least, I think that it would be interesting to hear from our member from Cambodia, the country, compared to other countries in Southeast Asia, is a relatively smaller market for social media company. However, the impact of social media platform on human rights and democracy there is not small at all. And I would like to invite V. Nop, Executive Director of Cambodian Journalists Alliance Association, or Cambodia, to share with us about this. V, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Floyd, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm very glad to be here to share from the impacts of the social media in Cambodia to our human rights and democracy. Just like Floyd just said, Cambodia is the small market for the social media company like Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, but the impacts is huge. The number of the social media user in Cambodia rose to 2.3 million, a 24% increase between 2020-2021. There were 12 million social media users in Cambodia in January 2021. This was equivalent to 71% of the total population during the period. The social media has been used as the only space for expression and communication by everyone, including government and political parties. Especially, after independent media crackdown and the soul of the big opposition party, Cambodian National Rescue Party, CNRP, in 2017. At that time, the remaining independent media had transformed into digital program and had been using social media platforms like Facebook and YouTube as their podcasting channels. However, social media companies haven't put action enough to protect human rights defenders and protect online harassment. Thousands of the Cambodian activists, including journalists, were arrested and imprisoned, caused from their expression related to COVID-19, advocate to protect national resource, human rights, and political rights. Social media companies have taken nothing to protect them. At the same time, while hate speech and disinformation have been disseminated widely across the country, but social media companies have taken less actions to take down the hate speech and disinformation. In Cambodia, I just would like to share with you that there are only 1% of the representative of the Facebook company. So we can imagine how the big action have been taken by the company to protect human rights and democracy. A human rights NGO in Cambodia survey found these platforms under the Facebook umbrella are the main digital location for online harassment in Cambodia. The messaging app Telegram is the second most common, the report states. Through the recent survey conducted by the local human rights NGO in Cambodia, has burned that 38% of respondents experienced online harassment at any point in the past, with more than 1 in 2 LGBTQ respondents reporting harassment. I think this is similar to the case that already shared by a colleague from Malaysia. The right group also noted one of the key players in online targeting is the Cambodian government, which conducted extensive surveillance of both civil society actors and the public lives to trust even though earliest sign of the digital distance. More than 3/4 of those surveyed believe at least one actor should do more to stop online harassment, particularly authority and the social media company. Facebook will count activists and journalists as the involuntary public figure and increase protection against harassment and bullying targeted at this group. Anyway, we are waiting to see the real action taken by the company. In the last 4 years, Facebook has created Facebook Explorer that has created a lot of obstacles for the people to access information here in Cambodia and other countries, while the country like Cambodia, government was taken down traditional media which were broadcasting foreign media program. This is the problem that the independent media program have been cut, to our people, especially the people living at the grassroots area. Cambodia has only 16 million people, while around 10 million have been using social media, and more than 80% of Cambodian youth have been, using social media actively. It is small market if comparing to other ASEAN countries. The big company like Facebook, YouTube, TikTok haven't shared their accountability to promote media literacy, freedom of expression, and access to accurate information in the country. So I think this is the way that Cambodian Journalists Alliance Association with our local human rights NGO in Cambodia participate in the alliance. Thank you very much, Floyd.
Thank you, Wee. Thank you very much. So I think after hearing from the member, you might see how problem by tech company seem to be similar among the country despite different local contexts. So I think that right now it's my turn to talk now about the challenge to hold this company accountable in Southeast Asia, given the problem that you've heard. Let me share the screen. Technical support, it doesn't work this time for the PowerPoint. Let me try it again. Let me try and reopen it. We check everything during the practice session, but sometimes it's weird. Okay. Oh, you shared from your screen already. Okay. That's fine. Okay. We can go to the next slide. Okay. Given the problem that happened, we might wonder how to make tech company to be more accountable and stick to human rights principle. However, in the Southeast Asia context, this is really challenging. And political background of Southeast Asia make it really difficult to hold tech company accountable for the problem that they have created. In the past recent years, there's also a concerning trend that we have observed. It looks like the government across Southeast Asia are seeking tighter control of how social media platforms should operate. Apart from being a space where people express what they think, we think that the rise of social media used in pro-democracy movement across the region have played a role in the regime seeking tighter control. So we have witnessed the civil disobedience movement, the CDM, that started out as an online campaign on Facebook following the coup in Myanmar last February. We have seen the Multi Alliance, for example, being born in 2020 as a regional pro-democracy movement that represents solidarity between Thailand, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, with Myanmar following them after the coup. The recent pro-democracy protests in several countries in Southeast Asia show how social media platforms have played an important role as well. The Lawan protest in Malaysia in 2021, which is driven by youth that use social media platform in organizing the movement, resulted in the resignation of Muhyiddin Yassin government. Hashtags such as "What's happening in Myanmar" or "What's happening in Thailand" allow netizens to report what happened following political situation in the country where mainstream media might not cover. So this situation shows that the platform are really critical for freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. However, blocking the entire platform is hard when there's really no alternative that as popular. The state-sponsored troll or cyber army also do exist, in which the regime benefit from it. There's also the fact that the regime cannot selectively censor content or remove accounts on those social media platforms by themselves. This is why controlling the platform on how it should operate inside the country is the answer. So next slide, please. So let's look at the recent development on law or codes in 2021 across the region. So this is like the development that we gather from 2021 in 6 countries. So you see the table. These laws share the same character. It's affect internet freedom with social media platforms are significantly affected. Cambodia passed the law on National Internet Gateway in February, which will allow the Cambodian government to control internet traffic in a much more coordinated way. It has a potential to create more pressure on social media platform and how it should operate. Otherwise, their operation can be threatened by not following the law. MR5, I think that some of you might be familiar with MR5 in Indonesia already. It was passed in Indonesia in November 2019. It requires all the digital platforms that wish to operate in the country to register with the government. Otherwise, they would be blocked. The law would allow the government to have more control over the registered platform as well. And similarly, if you look at Thailand, Thailand also issued a law to regulate digital platform as well. So yes, when they are registered, it's allowed the government to have more control over it. It just received a green light from the government in October. Vietnam issued a nationwide code of conduct on social media in mid-2021. It's not legally binding, and we still observe how this is going to be implemented according to which law. And also the code prohibits content that is anti-state, which also apply to social media company and all of their users. Another thing is that they also propose a draft decree that asks platform to give information of account that has more than 10,000 followers and subscribers. Yeah. And next, in terms of Myanmar, the cybersecurity law also, it has been quiet for a while after April. It's not adopted yet. But then if you look at the draft provision, so you can see that it's trying to control online service provider to do according to the state order in terms of censorship to localize the data. Similar character that with the Vietnam and Thailand cybersecurity law that were adopted in 2019. And interestingly, Singapore passed FICA this year, the Foreign Interference Countermeasure Bill, FICA. It's allowed the government to remove content or disable account considered as foreign interference together when used with POPMA that I mentioned earlier, or the law on fake news in Singapore. It will make the government very powerful on social media censorship. Next, please. Okay, so it has been documented and mentioned by the members that social media platform follow order of the government. We have seen the case of Facebook following the Singapore government order to label posts as false information. According to POFMA, it was revealed earlier how Facebook has treated activists in Vietnam on its platform by censoring anti-state content. And the government there has a lot of control over the platform since it's as an important market. A page critical of Thai monarchy has also been removed by Facebook Thailand last year following the government request. Some of these are actually key examples of how the repressive law have impacted on social media platform. Therefore, based on the situation, as they want the platform to follow their orders to suppress human rights. So when it comes to mechanisms such as law and a legal body that people can report to, for example, when they face unfair censorship just because the platform chose to follow the regime order, or when they face unfair censorship, just because, or when they feel unsafe because they know that they are being targeted and attacked by state-sponsored troll network or cyber army. The chance for them to rely on the state mechanism, like who to turn to, where to turn to, are almost impossible because there's really no mechanism. The mechanism at the regional level, it doesn't work as well. It doesn't work either. And as you know already, if you're in the field, ASEAN has never been so remarkable in terms of human rights protection. There's really no mechanism that people can complain to when they are treated unfairly or affected by social media business practice. Next, please. Just for you to see a clearer picture. Yeah. This is an example from Europe, actually. This year in 2021, Reporter Without Borders filed a complaint against Facebook in France following hate speech against media and COVID-19 disinformation that they think that it has made Facebook to be an unsafe space. This is because France has a strict consumer law. There's also a mass action against Facebook data leak in 2009, where over 500 million users had some personal information leak. I think this case was taken by Digital Rights Ireland, DRI, and NGO took the case to the Irish court on behalf of the EU citizen that got affected. Given that there is the Europe General Data Protection Regulation, or the GDPR, in the region. Yeah. So next, please. So when we talk about the social media own mechanism, it's not that reliable either from what that have been documented. I think that is enough for us to realize that many of these platform own mechanisms do not work. The ongoing scandal against a company that was once known as Facebook, whether it's about the cross-check that exempt elite people from their community standard, the algorithm that can expose user to more disinformation, or them not to take action on network that spread disinformation and hate speech in a small, poor, non-Western country. All of this show that their own oversight mechanism doesn't work out. And we also know that it's not even independent from the company either. So for some emerging platforms, as they are getting more and more popular, there's still a concern whether their policy or function to handle hate speech and disinformation can really protect users from harm, given some of them still have unclear policy on how to deal with this. And even they have a community standard, we can still observe that these community standards are still consistently applied to the platform. Yeah, so Next, please. So that's why here come the highlight. This is why we formed this coalition. I know that you want to hear more about it, and this is what you're waiting for. I'm also excited that this happened as well. The idea of creating this coalition, this coalition was created by Digital-Reach it was initiated by Digital-Reach in mid 2021, and the Southeast Asian Coalition on Tech Accountability was born after that as a formal coalition that acts as a regional community in Southeast Asia that aim to bring greater accountability of tech company. We think that it's better to strategically act together and to support and empower each other. We just adopted our charter last week, and you can see it in the link in the chat box. Technical team, please just share the link there. It will be properly available on the website soon after the webpage is done. Next slide, please. The objective of where's the share screen? Sorry. Okay. Objective. The objective of the coalition. Okay, this is what you see. For the advocacy part, we want to act as a regional community, as we think that one country acting alone might be too lonely. I'm kidding. I mean, the voices are stronger when we act together. The coalition can also empower smaller countries that can be easily overlooked due to their limited role in geopolitics, but that doesn't mean that their voices are not important. Also, we want to build capacity and want to make sure that the strategy or activities are really based on the local context and respond to the local need. This is why the member is so important to this coalition, to guide and provide advice to the coalition strategy and activities. Members helping the coalition to reach out to the community in their respective country of focus that have been affected by the business practice of tech company. Also, we have laid a plan to create a system on how we are going to work on this prison work mechanism, database, and tools. I think that this cannot be publicly discussed yet, as it's still in a very early stage at the moment, but it will gradually review as the coalition is developed. So next is the working approach. Next, please. Yeah, the working approach. For the working approach, there are the three approaches here, which are monitoring and research, advocacy, and capacity building. All of the approach were designed in order to make the work comprehensive. So yeah, monitoring and research, as you see, tracking of situation and impact of tech company and find out more about a certain situation to elaborate impact on tech company on human rights and democracy. Advocacy addresses issues related to tech accountability towards stakeholders, capacity building, building capacity of the community who are affected by tech company. Yeah, the targeted group are vulnerable communities such as activists, journalists, political critics, NGO. Yeah. Next, please. For the thematic area. So we have three issues here for the thematic area. And first is the role of social media on politically related issues. Second is censorship and hate speech. So for the role of social media on politically related issues, I think that it's undeniable that the role of social media on politically related issues is so important right now, whether it's about protest, election, political referendums, or other political events. We work together on this and monitor the situation on a regular basis. And I think that that's going to be like both proactive and reactive approaches on this. Censorship. Next, for the censorship is what we will start working maybe late 2022 if we have enough resources, or 2023, as this is going to create like a mechanism to respond to unfair censorship, which would take some time to develop. Yeah. hate speech is another issue due to the fact that the issue is so complicated. You know how it's like in Southeast Asia, where the culture is so diverse, the language is also highly diverse as well. So we need more time to come up with a plan to work on it, and it's planned to start in 2024 on the hate speech. Yeah, and next please. Currently, as I mentioned already, we have 11 members organization as shown here in the map. So we have 11 members in 8 countries, and based on the member work, this means that the coalition has 8 countries that are the focus of work in Southeast Asia. Yeah. So I don't know whether I speak too fast. Sorry about this. This is the end of the session, and I hope that this is exciting enough. Let's move to the Q&A. Thank you very much, technical team. For the Q&A, we have about 30 minutes left. Okay. First question. Okay, we have 3. Some of you have already answered about this already. Recently, a number of Thai activists have received a notification email from Apple warning them that their phone may have been attacked or compromised by a state-sponsored spyware believed to be Pegasus, which is allegedly funded by the current Thai government. In such situation, isn't it better for more Thai activists to perhaps use more open and secure technology apps? What do you think is the biggest challenge in getting more Thai activists aboard this idea? Pipao, do you want to elaborate it over? I mean, you've already answered already, but you want to elaborate it furthermore? Is he gone? Okay, he's gone. Never mind. He has a lot to do. I'll answer this. Yeah, actually, it hasn't been confirmed yet whether it's Pegasus. But we are working on it. And for the open and secure technology app, actually, the spyware for Pegasus is actually really complicated. And sometimes, even though you use like a very high and secure open app and open technology, secure technology, sometimes you can still get attacked. Yeah, it's really very random. It's really very unpredictable. So, but then yes, using open and secure technology, being able to know some basic updates, I mean, being able to know some basic digital security, like update your app, don't click on the messages that from an unknown senders, using 2FA, using a strong password, all this will help you being able to protect yourself, yeah, better. And I think that's something that the civil society that work on digital security are trying to moving forward. I mean, they're trying to work on this in order to make a strong digital security work in this region, yeah. For any of the panelists, any thought on Chinese influence in the region and how it impacts digital right? I have seen reports about influence with policy, such as the Vietnamese or Thai law providing technology to government to increase surveillance or being the source of bot army. Is there anything else? Anyone want to elaborate on this, panelists? Michelle, you're unmuted. Are you saying something?
Yeah, excuse
I mean,
me. Yeah. Maybe I can have some words about this issue, because we know in this region that the Chinese is a model for a lot of countries in Southeast Asia, and Vietnam is clearly following what China is doing in terms of censorship and surveillance about its citizens. And we know that Vietnam has bought a lot of spyware and some tools to monitor and to survey the people inside Vietnam and outside Vietnam also. They are buying some spyware to hack activists even when they are outside Vietnam. And we know the Vietnamese cyber force, the Force 47, is well supported by the Chinese government also. So it's a very worrying issue for us. And as you said, Chloe, we in this coalition we are trying to make some building capacity. So we need to increase also the capacity of our activists to fight against spyware and all the cyber issues. How to protect their account, how to protect their laptops and smartphone and so on. So it's a very big issue for all activists, not only in Vietnam but in the Southeast Asia. And we hope that we receive some help from big NGOs specialized in the IT issues.
Thank you, Michelle. Mayin, you wanna take this one from Myanmar about the impact of Chinese on Myanmar digital right? I think that the law has, I mean, there's probably some kind of a lean in from the Myanmar military toward the Chinese. Mayin, are you there?
Hi, yes. When it's come to the this kind of surveillance, yeah, we have actually experienced, especially in the Mandalay region, which is the middle of Myanmar, and then the government. I mean, actually, this is not the military time. Before the coup, in the previous NLD government, they decided to use this digital surveillance, facial recognition CCTV camera, installing in Mandalay region as their first pilot project. They were supported by China, and also of course this Chinese technology again, and now military is happily using this this data. Yeah, so this is the experience in Myanmar. But actually, not only from China, we also got this kind of the military, and also this police force. They got the they've been sold the digital forensics technology from Swedish company too. So not only from China, but of course mainly from China, my other fellow Michelle said, we got a lot of influence from China in our political situation too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayin. Vee, do you want to talk about Cambodia? I know that Hun Sen has a great relationship with China.
Actually, I have not much idea regarding to one on digital security, but what we have raised some concern here is that our government will copy the law such as the data protection law that have been passed recently by the Chinese government.
That's it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yudia, you want to speak? Okay. He's actually the advocacy director from CCHR. He's one of the member. Hi, Yudia. Oh no, you're muted. I asked you to unmute already. Technical team, please support him, please. It doesn't work. I'll promote you as a panelist. Does it work? Yunya, please accept the unmute. You just declined to be promoted to a panelist. Can you please accept it? Okay, that's something that make you not able to speak when you are in the attendee session. We actually asked you to unmute it. Can you see it? Where is he? Anyway, if he come back, we'll let him talk. Technical team, please just see whether he's come back. Okay, all right. We can move to the next question. Glad to hear about the network. How likely are you to engage with a social media company to raise your issues? How do you propose to reach out to non-US based platforms that are also popular, such as from China? Would the network consider social media council in country region as a model in moving forward? First, how likely are you to engage with social media company to raise your issues? Actually, I think that we have tried to engage with them even before this coalition was born, and it's not that easy actually. Some of the company, it's more like they forward the message to other teams that what they said to us, and after that we never heard from them again. that's something that's happened. But then we have the strategy of how to work on these issues. Yeah, I think that some of the company, they have been helpful so far in terms of how we communicate with them. It depends on each social media company, but we'll try to do based on that reaction. Second, how do you propose to reach out to non-US based platforms that are also popular, such as from China? I think that you mean TikTok here. The office of TikTok, I mean, the office of TikTok that's outside China. There are, I think that for TikTok, I think that the strategies right now is the same as other platform, and I think that if it gets complicated because it is going to be like a Chinese influence, we will think about it of how to do the advocacy. Yeah, but then I think that there would be some issues that are really obvious that it's wrong. For example, what happened in Myanmar earlier, where there are cases that the Myanmar military use the platform TikTok to threaten the activist, the protester. Yeah, so we'll think more about it on this. Would the network consider social media council in country region as a model in moving forward? Yes, but we have to see how this is going to apply to the context of Southeast Asia, given the mechanism that we already have. Yeah, that given the political context, given the political context, that is really hard to make this happen. Mifta already elaborated. Is there any Is there anyone from the member who would like to elaborate on this? No, right? I don't see anyone here. Okay. There's one open question. May I know what are the follow-up activities of SEACT? Okay. Discussion of effective ways of social media monitoring, analysis of social media policy. So next year, it's going to be the first year that this coalition is going to happen, right? I mean, officially. The first thing that we are going to do is that we are going to build a database first to keep track on the situation, to track the situation. And then there will be some elections happen after that. So we're going to monitor the role of social media in those elections. The Philippines, definitely, we're still waiting whether like Thai election is going to happen or not, and Malaysia as well. But then we have a core work that we have already said as well, which is the work on the censorship. So the work censorship actually, we are going to make a briefing paper on the social media policy and what it's like in practice in terms of how they censor content on that platform, and then the content that we found in this briefing paper will be made into a training. But this kind of thing is new. In order to build someone to be an expert, to be a trainer, be able to train someone, be able to train, group of people, it takes time. So I think that the work on censorship, this kind of thing, is going to happen in around like 2023, and then we're going to set up the mechanism as well, because there will be some people who don't get, a chance to appeal at all when their accounts or their content is removed. Yeah, so we build mechanisms on that as well. Yeah, and then 2024 we'll start to thinking about how to do it with hate speech. Yeah, so it's actually we have. So from Gaia, I think the fundamental is the business model. This is essentially what's let them do the kind of things they do and resist accountability. One of the examples is the monetization of paid and targeted advertising, which violate privacy. Are you looking to study this further and find a way to push for change? Yeah. Yes, I think that's this is a really good point. Thank you very much, Gaia, for pointing this out. I think that's one thing that I have learned in the past. There was a campaign. I think the Facebook was actually like a few years old during that time, probably like about in 2009 or something. One of our board members shared with us about this case study. It was actually that time when there was a case related to sexual harassment that happened on Facebook. And the platform didn't do anything about it. And this kind of thing was actually like widespread, that made Facebook at that time to become like a harbor of this kind of content, So there was actually a campaign that actually became successful later. They targeted the advertiser, those who pay for ads on Facebook. And when those advertisers started to pull out their money from the platform, that's when it started. Yeah, so I think that we can take that as a case study as well. Yeah, we have around 12 minutes left. Is Yukia back? Technical support? No. Okay, are there any questions from the chat that I haven't answered yet? Mm. I think all of these are answered. Are there any more questions that you would like to? Sorry. Thank you, technical support. Is the coalition looking at tech accountability beyond social media? I have noticed a considerable retreat in internet governance space by the private sector. This is not helpful as it reduces opportunity to dialogue. What are your thoughts on how to create more space for engagement? Yes, we'll see how this is going to develop. I think that right now is about social media, but then I know that there are other tech companies that are not social media but have effect on human rights and democracy in this region as well. We'll see what I can do. I mean, we'll see what we can do, and we'll move forward with that. How likely are you to engage with the social media company to raise your issues? How? Okay, I think this one is already answered. Would the mandate of the coalition also encompass the promotion of digital literacy on equal measure and how regional cooperation can be enhanced? Because relying on the mercy of tech platform alone would not be enough to get rid of main problems we face in the social media platform. Yes, actually the approach of us also is not just, it's more about working with activists on the ground. There are some high level advocacy as well, but we will use these two approaches together. Yeah, working with activists from the ground and also the high level. Yes. What are the roles of members of each country here? The roles of members, there are actually three main ones. First, they provide advice to us. They guide us on, they guide the coalition in terms of the strategy and advice in order for us to be able to respond to the local need based on the local context. I think that I mentioned about this a bit already during the presentation. Second, the role for them is to participate in the coalition activities and promote it through their networks. Yeah, and the third one is we work together on activities. They're like a focal point, act as a focal point. If the activities is in their respective country of focus, but this is for agreement because not all of the members have the same capacity. We don't want this to be a burden for the work that they already have on their schedule. So when we decided to do something or respond to something, we will always ask the member first about their capacity, about what can be done together, what can we work together based on their capacity. Yeah, and when we able to find out about the solution, when we reach the agreement, we take actions from that. Yes. I would appreciate, this is a comment, I would appreciate more coordination on setting up regional research team to come out with more contextualized policy before we advocate for the reform. Okay, well, thank you so much for the comment. I think that if we don't have any more questions, we can end the event here. Are there any more questions? Okay, thank you so much, technical team. Thank you very much. We have come to the end of this event. Forming a coalition is actually only a start of this effort, and we surely have a long way to go. We hope that this will become a strong and well-established coalition in the future. Thank you so much for those who participate in the event today. I thank all of the members a lot for their time and effort. They have always been so supportive. Thank you so much for all of you who are here today. I hope that you enjoy the event. And please feel free to contact us if you would like to get in touch. And thank you so much again, and see you next time. Bye.